like this. I give you the lesson number, so this is 1-2A, and then the title of what we're doing. So this is exponents and order of operations. We're running out of room.
Any juniors who have not had their pictures taken, please come to the attendance office. Any juniors who have not had pictures taken, thank you.
Okay, so what we are doing, why isn't he erasing? There we go, is all dealing with exponents, order of operations, which are probably things you've seen before. But just a refresher and just to get us going in the right direction for algebra here. When a problem asks you to simplify, do you know what that means? What are we doing? Making it, yeah, like the simplest possible, right? Just breaking it down to one thing if there is the possibility of one thing. Sometimes there isn't, and that's okay. But you want to go as simple as you can. So if the problem starts like this, you're trying to break it down as far as you can so that it's as simple as possible, okay? That's simplify. So when you have a power, something like this, for instance, okay, that whole thing is called a power. There are two things involved in that power. There's this bottom number. Anyone know what that's called? That's your base. Okay, and then there's this little superscript number. Anyone know what that's called? Not subscript. It's an exponent, right? So this is an exponent. Okay. And basically what happens is the exponent, and I'm going to write this out. You don't have to write this out if you don't need to, but I'm going to write it out for those of you that want the definition of it. The exponent tells us how many times to multiply the base an S by itself. Okay, the exponent tells us how many times to multiply the base by itself. So if I have this 2 with that superscript 3, the exponent 3, another way of saying that is 2 to the third power, which would essentially be 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so you're taking that base and you're multiplying it by itself 3 times. That's what the exponent is telling you. 2 times 2 times 2. We would say it's 2 to the third power. Anyone know another way to say that? To what? Anyone know a third power? Cubed. 2 cubed. Okay, so 2 to the third power or 2 cubed is how you could say that. What would you do for this one then? How could you say that? 5 squared. You can say 5 squared, or you can say 5 to the second power. Okay, so 5 squared or 5 to the second power. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify a few of these powers. Okay, so this is example 1 that we're going to do. And if I'm going too fast, just ask me to slow down and I will slow down, okay? Let me know. So example 1. They're going to say simplify. And here's our first example. let's say we have 10 to the 5th power, okay? What is 10 to the 5th power going to look like if we were to write it out as a big problem? Two more, times 10, yes. So 10 to the 5th power is essentially 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, right? Now the beauty of powers of 10 is it's just how many zeros do you put back there, right? So 10 to the 5th power is a 1 with 5 zeros, which means it is 100,000, okay? And you will get to use your calculator often, most of the time in this class. So just keep in mind you have a calculator that can help you with things like that if you don't know how to do it off the top of your head. How many of you have a calculator with you today? Okay. Do you know how to use your calculator and put something to a power? The little caret button usually, the one that looks like this. Okay, if you don't, talk to me at the end of class and I'll show you how to do a power, okay? All right, what would this one be? And you shouldn't need a calculator for this one because I think you can do this in your head. 3 to the 3rd power would be 3 times 3 times 3, which is what? What's 3 times 3? 9 times 3 is 27. Okay, so that would be 3 to the 3rd power. How about this one? This one looks a little different, and I feel like fractions kind of freak people out. Don't let it freak you out because it's really just as simple as the last problem was. Basically what you're doing, 2/3 to the 3rd power is 2 to the 3rd power over 3 to the 3rd power. So you're just taking that 3rd power to both numbers. So if I want to do that, it's going to be 2 to the 3rd power, or 2 times 2 times 2, over 3 to the 3rd power, which is 3 times 3 times 3. What's 3 to the 3rd power? 27. You just did that in the last problem, right? So my bottom number here is 27. What's 2 to the 3rd power? 8. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, okay? So you would have 8 over 27. Questions on that? All right. Okay. Look at this problem. Can you tell me what that equals? 2 plus 3 times 5.
25.
It's not 25, but that's what everyone wants to say it is. It's not. 17.
You don't have parentheses.
You don't need parentheses because we're getting into PEMDAS, which is what I'm going to tell you about right now, so don't freak out if you got it wrong. Order of operations, or PEMDAS, we like to call it. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Have you ever heard that one? Yeah. There's a lot of other ones you could come up with too, but I feel like that's the most common. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, so when we talk order of operations, we want to go in this order. So your P is parentheses. Your E is exponents. And then here's where it's a little bit tricky. Your M and your D come together. So M is multiply, D is divide, and you do those in order left to right. So if the division comes first, you do the division first. If the multiplication comes first, you do the multiplication first, okay? And then your A and S are add and subtract, or addition and subtraction. And again, you do those left to right. So if the subtraction comes first, subtract, and then do the addition. If the addition comes first, add, and then do the subtraction, okay? So if you look back up here, there's no parentheses, so we don't have to worry about that. There's no exponents, but you look, is there multiplication and division? Well, there's multiplication, so that has to come first. 3 times 5 is 15. And then there's addition, 2 plus 15 is 17. Okay, so that's what we're going to do a lot of today, is just following the order of PEMDAS. Okay, so let me give you a few problems, and we will work those out. Are we good with this? Can I move up, or do you still need that? Good? Okay, so this is example 2. And it's going to say, simplify. So for our first one, we have 9 minus 3 in parentheses, a squared, and then divided by 4. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here just so you can see the list. So thinking PEMDAS here. P. What does P stand for? Parentheses. Do we have parentheses? Yes. Okay, so when you have parentheses, you have to start with what's inside the parentheses. So inside our parentheses is what? 9 minus 3. So you're going to do 9 minus 3 is 6. And then you have the problem as you see it still. So 6 squared divided by 4. So that's your new problem. 6 squared divided by 4. Now, I have parentheses still. I don't need those parentheses. There's nothing happening in the parentheses. It's just a number. So if you would rather, you can totally just ditch those parentheses because we already simplified the parentheses. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. So what do you do next?
Oh, so then you do
Mm-hmm. So that's E.
12.
Right. So our
36.
36. Okay. So our E, next thing, is exponent, right? So for our exponent, we're doing 6 squared, which is 36. And then we have divided by 4. Okay, so that'd be your next problem to solve. And there is only one operation left. Okay, so you're going to do the division. 36 divided by 4 is what? 9. So your answer, your simplified answer, is 9. Okay? All right, how about this one? If I give you 2 to the 5th power plus 11 plus 14 divided by 5. Okay. Now, I feel like a lot of times it's like plus 11 plus 14. People just think, oh, so I can add 11 and then I can add 14. But you didn't simplify your parentheses first then, right? You always have to start with parentheses. So that's where we're going to start. Our parentheses are 11 plus 14. What is that? 25. So you're going to have 2 to the 5th plus 25. So you can ditch your parentheses because we simplified them. Divided by 5. Okay. Right. So there's your P. Now we move on to E. Are there exponents? Yes. So we're going to do 2 to the 5th next. Anyone know what 2 to the 5th power is? 32. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 2 is 34. 32, sorry. So you have 32 plus 25 divided by 5. Okay? What do you do next? You divide. So we're going to go here next. 25 divided by 5 is what? 5. So you have 32 plus 5, which makes our final answer what? 37. Okay? What?
I said I did that. I added those.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you follow. That's why I highly recommend at the top of your homework problems and at the top of your quiz and at the top of your test, write PEMDAS out. And if you need to write the words with it, write the words with it. Because it'll just help you make yourself go through the checklist, right? Okay, what about this one? So let's say we have 2 not to the 3rd, 2 squared plus 3 squared in parentheses divided by 2. Okay, where do I start? The parentheses. So what is inside the parentheses right now is all of this. Well, inside the parentheses, you have exponents and you have addition. What do we do first?
Exponent.
The exponent. So we're going to do 2 squared is what? 4. And 3 squared is 9. And then still divided by 2. Okay. Now you can simplify what's in the parentheses. What's in our parentheses?
4.
Which would make what? 13. Okay, so now we have 13 divided by 2, which gives us an answer of 6.5. Okay? Questions on that? All right, last problem. Okay, and this one looks a little bit different. The reason I do this problem is I want you to see one with this division bar, okay? The rule is that division bar acts like parentheses. Okay, so in other words, it makes it look like this. So you're gonna do what's on top, totally simplified, what's on bottom, totally simplified, and then your last step is to divide those two things. Okay, so it's a little tricky with the division bar because it doesn't really follow the rules like we say it does. So if we start with those acting as parentheses, what should be the first thing we do? The exponent inside those parentheses, right? So you're going to do 3 squared is 9 divided by 3 over 9. What should I do next? Divide 9 and 3. We want to keep that top as it is, keep the bottom as it is. So 9 divided by 3 is 3 divided by 9. Okay? And now from here, 3 divided by 9 doesn't make a nice number for us, so we're just going to reduce the fraction. What does 3 over 9 reduce to? 1 over 3. Yeah, you're good. 1 over 3. So both are divisible by 3, so your answer would be 1 over 3. Yes, ma'am.
And you said the line in the acts like parentheses, so like, do you mean like you automatically both of those?
So it means, yep, your top is essentially in parentheses and your bottom is essentially in parentheses. In this case, the bottom didn't matter to have parentheses because there was nothing to do there, but you want that to be your last step. You want this division bar to be your last step. Okay? Any questions on that?